Ois base. So we're discussing over here that through mitzvahs asay, which is called the choisem boilet, level of ava, a yesh, you're mamshich from seder hishtalshalus in a way that it becomes a choisem shekeya, so that it goes into the Irish Bikalim. Today is going to continue, but by loisas, which is the level of sunken choisem, you're mamshich from the level of higher than Atzilus, higher than the Seder Ishtalshus. Base. Omnom al yidei kiyum mitzvahs loisasa, by observing the prohibitions, ubitla yesh, and negating the yesh. As he said before, everything from klippa is a yesh, and when you don't do it, that's called negating. That's called being mevatel the yesh, which is the level bechinas shkiya shemilmato. It's the level that it's sunk in below, which means it doesn't come through a yesh, but a bitla yesh. It comes through negating the yesh. So nimshach mizemil mailo gamkein shaloi b'derech ishtalshalus. So then we bring down from above, not in an order of ishtalshalus, which means that it's a level of beyond the ishtalshalus, beyond the atzilus, and he's going to explain soon in the parentheses exactly which are the levels that we're talking about over here. Like it's explained in Eitz Chaim, sheyesh beis bechinas ha'alois. There is two levels of a halois. One is b'derech klal, all the halois are on Shabbos. When Shabbos comes, what does it mean? The world, what becomes a Shabbos? Meaning that the world gets elevated. Normally, the world gets elevated to the level of Atzilus in a way, the elevation that comes through the level of Ava, that's a choisem boilet, that gives you to the level that the chitzonius, it's only the external of the upper part which comes down, but the level of haloas man, which comes in the pnimius, which is in a way of choisem shekeya, level of bittul, goes even higher. Let's look inside. There's two levels of elevation. The first, the lower level of elevation is Hainu Aliyas Oilum is b'Shabbos. That is when the worlds, all the worlds on Shabbos, they're elevated. That's the first level. What happens then? Hu shepnimius Oilum hatachten. That is that the inner of the lower level gets elevated. Oila umalbish Oilum ha'elyon. It goes up and it dresses up the upper world. The lower world goes up to the upper world and becomes a levush, dresses up the upper world. What is nimshach from the upper world to that lower world that dresses it up? Bechitzonius olam ha'elyon nimshach lipnimius olam hatachten. And the external of the upper world extends to the inner of the olam hatachten, because a garment, the levush, is outside of the olam ha'elyon, so it is only malbish the chitzonius, and the olam ha'elyon gives into that levush from its level of chitzonius. So what comes down into the levush, into the olam hatachten? only from the chitzonis from the olam ha'elyon. Why is it only in that way? Is why only the chitzonis? Machmas ki ha'alo mo'olam hatachten hu al yidei ab. Because how is this elevation from the lower world that comes through Ava, b'bchinas blita, in a way of protrusion? It's in a way of love. V'loi b'bchinas bitl mamesh, and not in a way of total negation, total bitl. Lochein nimshach milmaylo. Since it comes from the level of a chaysim boilet, from a level of belita. So therefore, from above, it goes down into the level of sinks in, which means sinks in means oiris bekalim, labish betoich pnimis oilom hatachten, to dress up inside of the inner of the lower world, bebechinas tzimtzum, in a way of restrictive. The light becomes restricted. That's shekeya instead of protrude, which means it comes down as is, but here it comes down in a way of shekeya, that it's sunk in, it's oiris became. That's the first level of halo, which takes place on Shabbos. Aval yesh oid halos b'chinas man. There is another level, where the level of man, the mayin nukvim, the yisarusa dilatata elevates, goes up, and that goes up b'chinas ibur bebeten ema. It goes up in the level of ibur. Ibur is the pregnancy, bebeten ema, in the stomach of ema of bina. Basically, it is not a levush for the chitzonius. In this aliyah, you're going inside the beten, inside the stomach of ema, of the level of bina. And he quotes from the Kabbalah in the Zohar. He calls it Tlas Klilon Goy Tlas. 3 included in 3, inside 3. Basically, we have the 3 dividing of the spheres of the koiches, the midos. You have the moichin, and you have the midos, and then you have nehi. It's basically Chabad, Chagas, and Nehi. So normally these 3 are a full structure of a human being: Chabad, Chagas, Nehi. But when you have a fetus over there, these 3 are included just in Netzach Hod Yesod in 3, which means Chabad, Chagas, Nehi are all included in Netzach Hod Yesod. When the baby is in its mother's womb, when there's a fetus, you don't see no moichin and you don't see no midos. All what you see is the level of nehi. So that is telas, the 3 Chabad, Chagas, nehi included in telas in Netzach Hod Yesod. So when you reach that level of bittul, because there is no there's no yesh over there. There's no Chabad, there's no Chagas. That's the idea of Ibur. You have the baby there, but the baby has all the functions of Chabad, Chagas, but they're all included in the heat. I know that means, what is this level of bittul? Before it was says it's bittul, but it's not bittul mamish. But this is bittul mamish. I knew shanizbatel memahuse legamri. That he totally was subjugated from his essence, and now he's sunk in. He's an Uber. He's like the Uber. He doesn't have. He's his Chabad and Chagas are not functioning because he's totally subjugated. V'nichlal be'elyon mamish. And it's included in the upper one mamish. In the higher level, where the aliyah is, in Bina. So then, that level of bittul, that level of man, level of my nukvim, the sarusta talil tato, that doesn't just bring down into the level of ishtalshulus. It brings down a whole new birth. From this comes the level of mayim dechurim, the masculine, the hamshocha milmailo, which is hamshochas meichin chadoshim, which is bringing down totally new moichin, which means not the level of chokhmah bina that was there before, but new moichin chadoshim. Just like physically the birth of the child, there's a whole new entity through the level of bittul. You get a hamshocha meichin chadoshim. V'zehu inyan yitzias Mitzrayim. That second level, the first level was Shabbos, the Haliyas Lim Shabbos. But the level that you give birth through the level of bittul, Zehu inyan yitzias Mitzrayim. This is the idea of going out of Egypt. Ki golus Mitzrayim hoyo b'bchinas ibur. Because the exile of Egypt, as the Navi describes it, and other Mamorim brings it down, was in a way of ibur. And the nase hageula v'yitzias Mitzrayim moichin chadoshim. Then when the geula was made, came around the exit of Egypt, there was moichin chadoshim, the totally new moichin. V'ayin b'pri Etz Chaim Shar Chof Aleph Perik Aleph sheheim moichin elyonim ma'od ma'od chulu. That these are very high, very, very high level of moichin, the new moichin that come down. V'gam bo shaloi b'hadroga, and also they came not in a gradual, not in a step-by-step way, but all at once. Masha ein kein b'shum pam acheres rag b'madrega chulu. But as opposed to all other times, it all came in a step-by-step. B'ayim masha kosu le'il b'dibra maschul kol doidi b'pirush shenigla alei melech malcha umloch HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that the King of Kings, the King that kings kings, HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed to them, meaning he came from a very high madrega. So that becomes a new moichin, and also the oid sheyitzias Mitzrayim v'kriyas Yamsuf, that this exodus of Egypt that we experienced over there, it says something totally new. That is Gilui Hanisim B'Shinu Hateva Lagamri B'Shamayim U'Ba'oretz. There is a total change in the nature, in the heavens and the earth. So what is all this? We got something totally fantastic, fascinating. Not a level of tzimtzum in Eires B'Kelim, in Hishtalshalus, but we got these great miracles. We got the new level of moichin, and in the world there was a total change, which is the level of Bechinas Choisem Boila. This is the level of the protruding signet. This is opposite of now we don't see signs, we don't see miracle, we don't see above nature. Then there came about this tremendous new revelations and change of teva, because the halah was in the level, Mitzrayim was like an ibur, and the ibur is the level of bittul. The chosem sheikeya brings about the chosem boila, this highest level beyond Seder Ishtalshus. Zehu, and this is also, the Gemara says that Isha Mazras tchilo yeledes zochar. So, which means that when the Isha begins the process in a way of Isha, which is we're going to learn the Yisoid and Nukva is Sheikeya. When it's Isha Mazras Techilo Yeled Zochar, the birth is a Zochar, which is similar to the Choisem Sheikeya, brings about the Choisem Boilet, the sunken Choisem, that the female brings about a male, Yeled Zochar. Hainu. Explain. When the elevation from below to above is in a way of shikia sunken. As we know, and as it's known that Yisoid the Nukva Sheikeya, that the Yisoid of the feminine is sunk in. Azai let the Zochar. So then you give birth to a male, shenimshach melmailo bechinas belita, that from above it comes into the level of belita. Ulehepech, and then on the other hand, if you have ish mazriya techila memata lemailo bechinas belita al yidei abba, when it comes from the masculine, that he begins the process of this Zriya, which is Bechinas Belita, in a way of protrusion, which is Al Yidei Ahava, through love, a yesh, an entity, it's Belita. You let this Nekeva Milmailo. So then, Milmailo from above, you let this Nekeva, it gives birth to Nekeva. Milmailo, the Bechina Shkia, the Nekeva from above in a level of Shkia, which is sunk in, Hamshachas Oides Bekalim to me, Mamshich, the Oides Bekalim. It's going to explain now in the parenthesis, according to the Kabbalah, the various different levels where exactly the Hamshacha comes from the level of Atik, comes from the level of Arich, as he's going to explain. Be'inyan choisem sheikeya v'choisem boilet shem milamaylo yesh loimer. In this idea of the sunken signet and the protruding signet of above, we can say, Kihine al yidei tariyag mitzvahs de'eraisa. If you take 600 mitzvahs of the Torah, and also v'zayin mitzvahs the Rabbanon, you add the 7 mitzvahs that are based of rabbinic origin. So 613 and 7 equals 620. 620 is Keser. Keser equals 620. You bring down the level of Keser. So both, aside from the mitzvahs asay, aside from the mitzvahs loisaseh, together 620, the 613 with the 7, 620, brings down Keser. However, which level of Keser do we bring out? We were discussing that the mitzvahs asay bring down a lower level, and the loisaseh bring down a higher level. And we're talking now within Keser itself, that the mitzvahs asay are bring down the lower level, and mitzvahs loisaseh the higher level. Ach mitzvahs asay. But when we talk about the mitzvahs asay, where do they come, bring the hamshacha? Shehei mibechinas vavke. They are from the level, as we said, the asay is vavke and the loisaseh is yudke. So this is the level of vavke. Hainu zayin tachtoines the arich ampin. This is the 7 lower level, the chagas nihim of arich ampin. Ulefi shehem mislapshim ba'atzilus, because the 7 lower level of arich ampin dress up in atzilus, because we know ki avo, because chokmo bina of atzilus malbishin chesed ugevura de Arichampin. They dress up the Chesed Gevura de Arichampin, which is the Zayin Tachtoinus of Arichampin. Beloche Nikra, and that's why it's called Choisem Sheikeya, because it comes down into Avo, into Hishtalshlus, in a way of a tzimtzum in level of Chochma Bina. Omnom haloisasa, but the loisasa. Shehem b'chinas Yudke, they are from the level of Yudke. Hainu, they are Gimul, the Shoynes, the Arichampin. They are the first three of our, they're the Chochma Bina Das of Arichampin. She'eno mislapshim klal. They don't dress up at all into the level of Atzilus. Because Avo of Atzilus can only malbish the Zayin Tachtoinus, not the Zayin, not the Gimel Rishoinus, and therefore they're not nimshach into Atzilus. Loche Nikra Choisem Boilet. That's why it's called the Choisem Boilet, that it protrudes. It goes further. So here we made a distinction within Arich that Asay is Mamshich the Zayin Tachtoinus of Arich, and Lois Asay is Mamshich the Gimel Rishoinus of Arich. And I was going to say that there's also a difference in Atik as it comes down to Arich. Ulefi Mashin is Boyer Biur Al Posik Shchoira Ani Benovo Be'inyan Mitzvahs Loisas or Mitzvahs Asay. So over there it says Sham Mitzvahs Asay Mamshichim Ha'oin Mezayin Tachtoinus Da'atik Yoimin. So now, not design only design Tachtoinus of Arich, but design Tachtoinus of Atik Yoimin. So now we're talking already about the Gimel Rishoinus. V'hinei Isa Beitz Chaim Shar Arichampin Perek Aleph Beis Shezayin Tachtoinus the Atik Mislapshin Toich Arichampin, that the 7 lower levels of Atik, they dress up within Arich Ampin in Arich. V'hu musad b'noida etzleinu al yidei Arich Ampin. And that is graspable and it's known to us through Arich Ampin. We know also the Zayin Tachtoinus of Atik because they come down into Arich. Gimel Rishoin is the Atik, but the first 3 levels of Atik, the Chochma Bina Das of Atik, it's impossible for them to dress up in Arich Ampin. So that level of the Gimel Rishoin of Atik cannot come down to Arich at all. V'zehu inyan, and this is the idea we say in the Kabbalah when we say Reisha, the La Yisyada, it's a head that has not been known. Because because even Arichampin itself doesn't know the Gimel Rishonis of Atik Yomin. So that's this Noida, and it's known. So what is this 2 level? The Bechinas Atik, the level of Atik Bechinas Malchus the Ein Sof. That is the level of the Malchus of Ein Sof. That's the level of Atik. That's the root of the Netzol, the created being. V'imkein Zayin Tachtoinus the Atik, the 7 lower levels of Atik. Zehu, that's the Shoyrish HaNetzolim. Zehu ha'oreh made in Sof HaNimshach u'mislabish aksha b'Shoyrish HaNetzolim. That's a shine of the Ein Sof that now comes down into the root of the Netzolim, into Arich Ampin. So it's connected already to the Netzolim by the light of Arich Ampin coming down in Atik. Ochet Gimel Rishoin is the Atik, but the 3 first level of Atik, the Chochma Bina Das the Atik, She Efsher, She Slapshu Toich Arich Ampin. It's impossible for them to dress up in Arich Ampin. Which means Hainu Ha'oir Mein Sof That's the light of the Yisov that does not extend and dress up now at all. Even in the root of Atzilus, even in Arich Ampin, which is the Sherish of Atzilus, but the Gimel Rishonis of Atik Yoimim cannot go down there. And in the future, we will have that level, where the level of Gimel Rishonis of Atik will be revealed. So, that is what we called the Choisem Boilet, the protrusion totally higher. So, according to this, he took it a step higher into the level of Atik Yoimin, because the Loisas reached the Gimel Rishonis of Atik Yoimim, as explained in the Mamer that he brought down. And the mitzvahs say, go to the Zayin Tachtoin Atik Yoimim, and only the Zayin Tachtoinis of Atik Yoimim come down in the Sherish and Atzolim into Arich, and not the first three of Atik Yoimim, and that comes only in La'asid Lovei. That's the Choisem Boilet that you get through the total bittul. That's what is by Yitzis Mitzrayim, as he said before. There's another thing we can say, and this is actually the main, as according to what it's written in Eitz Chaim, the Pri Eitz Chaim, in the Kavanah of Shema. Over there it says, Shahamadrege Hayoytzer Atzuma She'efshel Lahamshich Moichin Achshov, that the highest level that we can bring down now, Moichin, is Hu Mechitzonius Atik Chulu. That is only from the external level of Atik. Mashe Enkein Pnimius Atik Husosum V'Gonul. That's why, as opposed to the inner of Atik, is closed and hidden. So it says Velochein, and that's why Pnimis Yisoid Atik Zo B'chinas Choisem Boilet. The inner of the Yisoid Atik, because now we can get from there. So the Pnimis of the Yisoid of Atik is Choisem Boilet. V'zeu sheyizgale rak la'osid, and that's what's going to be revealed only in the future. The Pnimis Yisoid Atik, as he said, we can't bring it down today. It says in the Pri Eitz Chaim. V'alzeh nemar ubris shloimi loy tomut. So basically, the bris, which is the Yisoid, loy tomut, will not falter. That's talking about the La'asid Lovei, in which there will be the Hamshocha from this level, which is really hidden. V'ayin b'haramaz b'zoyhar chelik aleph b'dav dalet seifam et beis b'divra hamaschil b'a'olas b'chai olmin chulu. And that, and also the Parshas Boy and Daf Mem Omed Beis. I can further say in this, it was written elsewhere, Be'inyan v'kibela Yehodim chulu maro shom niskar gamki me'inyan ishim azras techilo v'hu b'dibur hamaskil chayiv inish v'ay ma shekosu v'Rab Chaim Vital b'sefer Mavoy She'orim Shar Shlishi chelik beis perik beis. So this is the end of the parenthesis. It says, inyan hashnei chosomis. We say in the Pasuk in Shir Hashirim, it says, k'choisem al zurayacho and k'choisem al libecho, which is the tefillin shel yad and the tefillin shel rosh, tefillin shel yad, tefillin shel rosh. And we said before, the tefillin shel yad represents the protruding choisem, the level of ahavo, the level of Kaddish, which is the level of Chochmah, which is the level of Ishtalshlus, and the Tefillin Shel Rosh Al Libecho is the Makiv. That's, as he's going to explain now, the surrounding, the higher level, just like in I'm going to explain now, in a Sefer Torah, you have the letters, and then you have the parchment on which the letters are written. That's called the Gevil. And you have the Hamshacha, which comes down in a way of writing of the ink on the paper, which you can say brings about a new idea. Every time a letter means a revelation, bringing down something, as opposed to the parchment around it is not revealed, because that's the level of makif, as we're going to explain now in Nois Gimel. But Yuvon Bahagdim, so we can understand this by introducing Mamer Azal, the saying of our sages of blessed memory. They say that kol ois she'en gevil mukaf lo ma'arba ruchoseo pesula. If you have a letter that doesn't have parchment that's surrounded from all sides, it's puzzled, it's unfit. What is the idea of a letter, and what's the idea of the parchment which is around the letter? The inyan ha'oisius. Well, what is meaning the oisius? A letter is a revelation. The word oisius, ki inyan ha'oisius uloshen osa, comes, which means you bring something new comes in. Shabo dover chodosh v'isavus chadosha. There's something new. You're bringing in something, a new item, a new creation. So, in order to create something now, the hainu sheyizhave mebchinas chesed atzilus. When you create from the level of chesed atzilus, creates yehi rokia, that there should be a firmament. That's letters coming down. Oy sheyizhave mechochma midos, or when you have an idea, and then this creates the emotions, that's nikra oisius. That's called letters that you're bringing down. Likewise, she is have milmailo men hadas bechinas chokhmah. The same thing is when you want to create from higher than das, you want to create chokhmah, that's also called nikra gamkin oisius. It's all called oisius. Every time you bring in something new, that's called a letter, that's a revelation, that's something new that's brought in. However, achshom, but over there, when we talk about chokhmah coming from higher than das into being, it's not just regular oisius. Over there, it's called sidus. Ashom urag b'china sidus. It's a revelation and it's a connection, but it's only in the level of a here. When we say a here, which means she'ein areich la'atzmusei klal, it has no comparison, no relationship to the essence at all. It's so much, even though it came, it was revealed, but the revelation is not something be'erach to the place that it was hidden. It is totally removed. It's in a way of a sidus. It's very far removed. In other words, you cannot tell that relationship. It's only like that. What is the relationship of sidus with this source? It's just like the here, which you can cut it off and you don't feel anything. It doesn't bother you. It means that the chayis, even though it's connected to the person, but yet it's a very minuscule. What is it? K'moy. If you cut the hair, it doesn't touch your essence. You don't care. It doesn't bother you. It doesn't bother you at all. It doesn't matter to you at all. But still, even though it doesn't matter to you, but it's still connected. The hair is hamshocha, something from the essence. It's an ois, it's osa, it comes from the essence. Even though it's a minuscule, very little, it's in the level of sidus. V'zehu abo yoinek b'mazel ches b'chinas sidus. This is when we say that Abba nurtures from the level of of the eighth level. You have the 13 attributes of mercy. That's called the Yud Gimel Tikunei Dikna. So it says that Abba Chochma gets from the eighth. Noitzer Chesed, over there comes the eighth one. That's the eighth one, but it says Memazel B'chinas Sidus Chulu, in a level of Sidus. Umekoir Shorshom, Ubechinas Galgalto. Where is the root of these Sidus? They come from the skull, like by the person. The hair of the head we're talking about comes from the skull, which is Lavnunis Chesed de Atik. That skull is called Atik, and that's the white of Chesed of Atik. Just like he's going to say, in the skull of the person, there's a layer of white under the skull, which the hairs come from. So over there, that's called the Lavnunis Chesed de Atik, which is the Galgalta. That's the source for the hair, where the siders get their chayis from. Umishom nimshach ha'oras sidus. And from there, from the level of Chesed de Atik, goes a shine in here. Sheyishavem mizeh b'chinas chokhmah da'atzilus. That from this should be created the chokhmah of Atzilus, reishis u'moken ha'ishtalshlus, the beginning and the source of all the evolution that follows. To make Cain ba'odom, likewise by a person, hagalgeles be'etzem, he levona, the skull and the bone is white, umakefes al hamoichin, and that surrounds over the moichin. Basically, so the moichin come from that, hovering from that galgoilas, and that's why the chokhmah comes from that mishom tzemeach sidus, and from there comes the level of sidus. V'ayin mizeh beitz chaim shar arich ampin perik hei. V'yesh b'china sidus ma'ulin chulu, v'yesh b'china acheres chulu, talks about over there. V'zen izbayer b'movi sha'orim shar gimel chelik beis soy perik tes. V'zeu inyan soifer v'sefer. So we have the soifer is the scribe. We want to go to the letters, the idea of the letters and the. So you have a soifer. Soifer is the one that writes, and the sefer. Sefer is the parchment on what you write. Pirush, the soifer, hibchachma, reishis u'moker ishtalshlus. That's the beginning and the source of ishtalshlus. Shemi'itoi bo ha'oisiyos v'isavus chadosha. From the level of chachma come the letters, the new creation. That's chachma. That's sefer. Chachma is the source. Sefer, bas sefer, you write the sefer shubina. The sefer writes in the sefer is bina. V'nikra, and that's called pituchei choisa. Opens, bina is called, that it opens up the choisem, the seal, the pituche choisem, like we said, by the stones and the pasuk. When is that? Shenifka yisoid ema, when it breaks through, splits the element of bina, of ema, niftach v'nizgala b'chinas oishis amida. It opens up and reveals the midah. So you have the opening, the choisem that goes through the level of bina to the level of midas. So he says, "Kan medaber be'inyan hamshocha mechokmo bina lezo al yidei oisius." Here we're talking about bringing down from chokma bina to zo through the level of oisius. Sholochein halavnunis hasovel ha'oisiyos zo b'chinas chochma chulu. So therefore, that white that holds the letters, that's the level of chochma. Ule'il diber, but previously we spoke b'hamshocha mikeser l'chochma ubino al yidei oisiyos. So we're talking from keser to chochma ubino through oisiyos. Shalavnunis hu galgalto de arichapin chulu. Okay, let's leave it over here, but the bottom line, we discussed over here the different levels where you're mamshik through the loisas and the masay. The general theme over here is that the level of bittul gives you a higher source. The level of loisasa, which is bittul from the lipas, gives you a higher source than the level of ava, which comes because of the level of mitzvah sasei, which is a chosim boilet, brings down a chosim shekeah within ishtalshlus, as he will continue to explain further in the Mamer.
Rabbi,